Today we are going to discuss about the traditional approach of capital structure. The traditional approach is known as the intermediate approach, and the reason for the traditional approach for being called as the intermediate approach is that since it's a compromise between the two approaches, where the number one approach is net income approach and the second approach is net operating income approach. Let me introduce you to the net income and the net operating income approach by the way of a model. The net income approach takes the position that the use of debt in the capital structure will always affect the overall cost of capital, which means that whenever more and more amount of debt is being used with the equity, the overall cost of capital will decrease. While the net operating income approach argues that the capital structure is totally irrelevant. This means that the change in the capital structure of a company does not affect the market value of a share or the overall cost of capital. That is why whatever may be the degree of leverage, the overall cost of capital remains constant. And this happens due to the increase in the financial risk of the equity shareholders. The traditional approach is a midway between the net income approach and the net operating income approach. Let us discuss about the traditional approach. By using a model, we can easily evaluate the traditional approach with the two existing approach models, that is the net income approach and the net operating income approach. You can easily see that the model of traditional approach is divided into three phases. This is phase 1, this is phase 2, and this is third phase of traditional approach. The first phase is very much identical to the net income approach. However, the second phase is very much identical to the net operating income approach. According to the traditional theory, the value of the firm can be increased initially in the first phase, or the cost of capital can be decreased by using more of debt, as the debt is a cheaper source of fund than equity. But in the second phase, the cost of equity increases because the increased debt increases the financial risk of equity shareholders. That is why the benefit of using a cheaper source of finance is being offset by the increase in the financial risk of the equity shareholders. But in the third phase, by using more and more of debt capital with the equity capital, or by using more and more of financial leverage, the increased cost of equity cannot be offset by the advantage of low cost of debt. Even the cost of debt may increase at this stage due to the increased financial risk. Since debt is a cheaper source of finance, that's why using more and more of debts with the equities leads to a decrease in the overall cost of capital. While in the second phase, due to the increase in the financial risk, the cost of equity increases, which offsets the benefit of the debt as a cheaper source of finance, due to which the overall cost of capital remains constant. At this stage, the optimum capital structure can be reached by a proper debt and equity mix. However, in the third stage of traditional approach, the cost of debt is increasing, likewise the cost of equity is increasing, and the reason behind the increase in the cost of debt and equity is because of the increase in the financial risk of the investors of equity as well as the debt investors, which leads to the overall increase in the capital structure. So the crux of the traditional view relating to the leverage and the valuation is that through judicious use of debt equity proportions, a firm can increase its total value and thereby reduce its overall cost of capital. The rationale behind this view is that debt is a relatively cheaper source of fund as compared to the ordinary shares. With a change in the leverage, that is, using more debt in place of equity, a relatively cheaper source of fund replaces a source of fund which involves a relatively higher cost. This obviously causes a decline in the overall cost of capital. And there comes a point in the traditional approach where we can select an optimum capital structure for our firm. Thank you.